I'm tired of people talking about my name. I had an amazing day, and I'm going to get on to my PowerPoint in a second, but if I go on a tangent, please don't leave thinking that, wow, he was like really unorganized in his talk, because I know, and don't judge me for that. Why are you guys late? No, Thank you so much for coming. Do you want some water, coffee, or a watch? You gotta break the ice. Because it's like, I don't think anybody oh, I can't wait to go talk about suicide or mental health tonight. You just gotta break the ice. So, let's talk about the pink elephant in the room. And, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. I struggle with anxiety, and getting started is often very difficult for me. Like I said to the students today, I want to be safe. I don't want to leave pieces that have to be picked up. And we had about 400 or 500 kids in here today. And if I was a parent, this is a school community that I would love to send my kids to. The kids and the teachers, we went almost 2 hours, and they were so attentive. It was amazing. And then afterwards, we opened up and the kids came, and some of the conversations, it's like some of these kids you want to just take home with you. I'm really impressed. And so having said that, I want to share my heart with you. I'm sorry for your loss. I know how hard this has been on the community. Like I said to the kids, listen, I want to, talk about the elephant in the room, and then I want to move forward. And I think one of the things we were able to do is kind of give them permission that it is okay to process grief, and we all go through it on our own terms. I think that's important, on your own terms. And we should never tell somebody, hey, you need to get over this, you need to move on. Processing this is on your own terms. I think it's awesome that you parents came out tonight and you're doing what you tell your kids not to do. Well, I mean, we tell our kids, oh, come sit in the front of the class. And you guys say, hey, let's get as far back as possible. You're all such hypocrites. No, I know. Some people get upset, man, I hope you have a really good turnout. And then when, I don't know what that means, but some people oh, there should have been a lot more people. But it's nobody wants to come out tonight. And here's why I think. We are afraid of what other people might think. If I go out and people see me, they're going to go home and talk hey, the Joneses were out there tonight. I wonder, is everything okay? I wonder if they're... Stop. Why can't we just... Yeah, everything's good. I'm going to support my community. Supporting our kids, our families, each other. I love this conversation. I love that we get to talk about it. And I'm truly thankful that you have an administration that says, yeah, we need to talk about this. But I want to share with you, and I hope I say this safely. And if I don't, you're all in the back of the room anyway, so you can get out easily. I got to speak to so many, the kids were amazing. But you know what I heard from them? You don't listen. you try and fix everything. You're not validating their thoughts and their feelings. I'm smart enough to know that this is what the kids are saying. I met a lot of parents too, and the parents came in and they were amazing. What I'm trying to say here is their perspective is different than maybe what you see. Dr. Stephen Covey says in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says, seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so I try and tell that to our kids. Try and understand where your parents are coming from. If you want them to try and understand where you're coming from. But I think equally important, parents, try and understand what your kids are going through today before you're expecting them to understand where you're coming from. I mean, think about teaching. Teenagers. Growing up teenager today is harder than it's ever been. I think parenting is harder than it's ever been. Teaching is harder than it's ever been. And you think, before you've gone through what you're going through as a school community, we're dealing with COVID and homeschool, virtual learning. And then you have 2 15-year-old boys within a couple of days. And then most recently, one of your staff members. For us in this room, we've been through trauma. We've had many experiences. But imagine what your child is thinking and feeling. And remember this, thoughts are thoughts. Like an arm is an arm, a leg is a leg. Thoughts are what they are, they're just thoughts. The feelings. We need to get comfortable being uncomfortable talking about our feelings. And I'll tell you, every school community I go to is like, hey Jeff, we need you to come in and we need to talk to our kids and get them to be comfortable like talking about this, and we need to normalize the conversation. But I find that the kids already want to. It's the parents that don't. It's the adults that are uncomfortable with it. So if lasting change is going to happen, I think we all need to get comfortable having this conversation. And so my question to you is, how can we create that platform where our kids feel comfortable coming to us and talking? They don't talk to you because you're going to judge them. You're not going to validate their thoughts. You're 15 years old, you got a perfect life, you shouldn't be dealing with this. You're fine. Or that they're afraid that they're going to be a burden. I had one child today. I said to him, are you tired? He said to me, I'm tired in a way that sleep will not fix it. I thought to myself, and I know as I say to you, our kids are tired. It's easy for us to be tired. You ain't tired. You're 15 years old. You can't be tired. I'm 60. I've been working since I was 14 years old. I get up at 4 or 5 in the morning. I work all day long. I walk to work. I walk home from work, uphill 2 feet of snow, 60-pound backpack, barefoot, and I'm pregnant. I'm tired. It's a different kind of tired. And we'll get more into that. I ask kids to describe their parents. They do in 2 words. Tired and angry. Tired and angry. I want to share with you something I learned about communication. I was married to this beautiful woman for a long time. And I remember one night I decided that I was going to cook dinner. Why are you laughing? You don't think I can cook? I planned a beautiful dinner that night. I was home. My wife was a teacher, and I thought, make a salad and some chicken nuggets. I'm a guy. Throw the chicken nuggets, $3.75, about 30 minutes in the oven. I buy a bag of Caesar salad, mix 2 of them, I open them, pour them in, stir it up, dinner's ready. Now my wife was one of those people, I mean she still is, she's not my wife, but she's still alive. She's one of those people that never had a bad day. Like everything's always positive, rainbows and sprinkles and unicorns and Skittles. But this one particular night, we sit down, dinner's ready, and as we're sitting there, she just started complaining. She's complaining about the other teachers, complaining about the kids and the parents, administration. Now, men fix things. Gentlemen, don't do that anymore. It's one thing I learned. And so she's complaining, and I said to her, baby, here's what you gotta do. Do this, don't do that, say this, say that, don't do that. She was 5'2", 110 pounds. She stood up. And you know how like if you get up real quick that you're like midsection, bam, the table was right there. And she stands up the table. Goes end over end. And I think part of my trauma, my PTSD, is I still see those chicken nuggets flying through the air. And I'm telling you, I flew into Erie yesterday. There was a Chick-fil-A. I'm hungry. I'm going to Chick-fil-A. And I'm ordering these 12 little chicken nuggets. And I'm thinking to myself, dumb. And I just started thinking about that moment. But I remember Marcia, my wife, and that's not 2 people, that's Marcia, my wife at the time. She's like, do you always have to fix everything? I'm venting and I just need you to listen. And I remember sitting there and I was like, noted. And I ain't never seen her look like Shrek more than she looked like Shrek that night. That was one of the greatest lessons I ever learned. And so when your kids want to come talk to me, and I think it's so cool because I'm a fat, bald guy, 51 years old. The kids come like want to talk. I'm like, hey! I always like to sit down and I often say to them, are you venting and you just want me to listen? Or are you venting and do you want my opinion? I challenge you that if you can start to use that, relationships will change. Here's another thing. You ever ask someone, hey, how you doing? And their typical response is, fine. What does that mean? It means I'm fine, leave me alone, I don't want to talk about it. How about this question? How's your heart? How's your heart? That question answers the 2 questions that people ask about you every day. Number 1, can I trust you? Number 2, do you care about me? And you might say, well, of course my kid knows they can trust me. Of course my kid knows that I care about them. I had a few kids today tell me they don't even think their parents love them. I know you do. But you have to remember how you're showing it and how they're receiving it are 2 different things. this was where, oh, I wrote a book. I read it too, it's good. Stop. Growing up means making mistakes. I get asked quite often, people say, Jeff, you've been working with young people for a long time. What do you think our young people need? I always say self-esteem. Self-esteem. I think we have a responsibility to teach them self-esteem. I think self-esteem often comes from letting them fail and not trying to pick up everything, not paving the road for them. Let them go through hard times. They're going to have to figure it out. We talked today about what we're going through as a community. What we go through shapes us. We grow as a result of hard times, but you can't be the victim. We talked about having a mindset. You can either be the victim or you can be the victor. You can either be bitter or you can choose to be better. You go through life, it exposes wounds or it builds muscle. But it's important that you know that if you don't speak it out, you're going to act it out. Self-esteem, I think, is really important. I came up with this after we had that whole college scandal. 15% of parents call or text their college-age child. I'm kind of thinking, if I'm going to spend $60,000 a year for my kid to go to college, and yet I got to call them every morning to make sure they show up for class and are prepared to take an exam, probably don't think they need to be going to college, or you need to be paying for it. Take it away from them. Mental illness, I'm a professional speaker. Mental illnesses and the stigma surrounding mental illness are challenges we must face together. I find this interesting. 5 out of 5 people have physical health. 5 out of 5 people have mental health. But the stigma. You're fine. Just because you don't have a clinical diagnosis of bipolar or schizophrenia doesn't mean your child. And I'll tell you, mental illness today is very different than when we were growing up. I mean, we're just talking anxiety, stress, I'm overwhelmed. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being low and 10 being high, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm anxious. How many of you might say on a regular basis you're at a 6 or higher? Raise your hands. Thank you, 5 of you. So those of you that raised your hands, technically, you are diagnosed with mental illness. They say being overwhelmed today is a diagnosis. But I don't think your diagnosis is who you are. You're not the label. I also don't like when we diagnose our kids. How can we treat the symptoms? And again, when I'm hearing from the kids, the parents, we're diagnosing our kids. You're fine. You're doing better. You don't need medication. You don't need therapy. Give your child what your child needs. Trust in the process, please. Take all signs seriously. We're going to get to that. Research clearly shows that better outcomes result when mental health problems are identified and addressed early. They say there's a clear connection between mental health and our academics. Okay. I want to share this with you. So, when a child comes in and we're talking, I often ask, do you feel alone? What does that mean? To the child, it means that they don't have meaningful relationships. And we think, how can you not have meaningful relationships? You got these devices and everything's online, and 700 kids, beautiful auditorium, look at all these great teachers. But to them, we're spending so much time on this device, we're isolating ourselves in this dopamine They call it the dopamine effect. The more time we're on it, the dopamine's like, I want more, I want more, I want more. But I don't really think you can take the devices away from them, because if you do, you're taking away their childhood. Because this is all they know. They don't know what we know, that there was life before devices. But I'll also tell you what our kids probably will argue. If your child spends more than 4 or 5 hours a day on their device, they're 70% more likely to have major depression. In the next 10 years, you will see a 31% increase in teen suicide, drug and alcohol-related deaths. Boundaries. Balance. I don't think our kids should be going to bed with their devices. They think they're fine. And when your child says, I'm going upstairs to do my homework, and you're like, I'm so proud of her. She's such a good kid. She's not upstairs doing her homework. She's up there on Snap, Face, Insta, TikTok. It's 11:30, and like, I'm so proud of her. She's been up there 5 hours. They give kids too much homework today. She hasn't even opened her book. And then they go to sleep in the middle of the night, and notifications go off, and all of a sudden it's OMG, SMH is going down tomorrow, you gotta be there. And that REM sleep is like cut. And so they don't get that 8 hours of sleep, it's broken down, maybe they got 2. And they come down and you're happy, mom and dad, you're like, good morning, honey. And they're like, how about like shut up forever? That's our kids today. So they feel alone. On the other hand, they feel like they're a burden, they're a disappointment. Why are our kids, they're growing up, they're assuming responsibility. They're adulting. They don't want to disappoint you. They don't want to share with you what they're going through, because they know what you're going through, and they feel that if they share what they're going through, now that's going to be on top of what you're going through. They don't want to burden you because they know you already have enough on your plate. And to the child, it means that they serve as a liability.